All right, so in that shared directory, we're opening Landscape Jordan. So when you bring up PIXLR, you bring up the expert version. We're going to do open image. Now yours is going to be different because mine's a laptop and not a Chromebook. So you guys are going to, let's see where I put them. You guys are going to open up Landscape Jordan from your thing. I'm going to open it from right here. It's going to come to this cool frame right here. Now, remember this in PIXLR. The bigger the image, the bigger the file size, the slower the computer responds. Does that make sense? If you're editing a picture of your grandmother and you're trying to make the best picture you can, use big picture size, but expect to go real slow. There's some of you going to find out as we do this, some of the crazy clickers, you're going to lose your mind and you're going to do that all the way right or all the way left thing, and your computer's going to lock up for like 30 seconds. And you're going to yell, my computer's not responding. Everyone else in class is going to remember that I just said, if you do the all the way left or all the way right thing, you like how I did that for the reverse stream, then your computer's going to lock up. Everyone else is going to go, So we're going to actually go full HD, which isn't terrible. Web is actually probably a little better, but I don't like how it looks. So we're going to apply that, and it'll bring our picture up. Hit the apply button and that'll open. So I told y'all, y'all took some really good pictures. I picked hers only because it has some good lights and darks in it. No other reason. There were like 12 other choices that I would have liked to use, but Jordan, you got lucky. She's like, wow, look at me. Did we do okay over here?
One sec. Did you see my round photo?
I saw a bunch of them. I'm going to show you different things we're going to do with it. The end assignment for this one. Did we get it?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So this assignment, my goal is to show you a little bit today, and then I'm going to give you Monday and Tuesday to just play freely. That is a new thing for me. Usually I'm very controlled in what I do, but I'm going to let you play freely before I teach you about the other stuff. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you basic file stuff. I'm going to point to things, and then I'm going to let you experiment. Your goal next Tuesday is to turn in a picture that you've edited and improved. It's not to turn into something in where zombies obviously live or where aliens are probably found. What I mean is, don't lose your mind. I understand art is one thing, but don't lose your mind in creating something that's so far out. So we've got a pretty good picture here. Let's talk about some of the things that this picture is important. Over here, we're going to start with the layers. So on the left side of the screen here, we've got navigation. And this is actually super useful for zooming. If you grab this little circle and you move it right or left, don't go real fast. Remember what I said about that? If you move it right or left, it'll zoom you in. And you can actually move that red square around and look at parts of the picture. Everyone see that? So it's super useful. Not so much here. When we start doing portraits, it's very useful to get in on certain parts of the face, like when we whiten teeth or something. It has some really great uses. I'm going to zoom all the way back out. Not that far. Okay. So the navigate pane is super useful when you're trying to figure out how to move around, because you can figure out exactly what you want to do. The next one is the layers pane, and we're going to play a lot with the layers pane. The one at the bottom is the history. As we do stuff, it's going to propagate. Everything we do in here is going to show up down here. And you can actually use that as like a multiple control Z. So if you did something real bad like 26 steps ago, and you don't want to hit control Z, you can actually click on the last one you liked. And it'll start from there. Is that kind of nice? So if you just want to try something out, and you're like 6 steps in, you're like going, oh my gosh, no. You just back up and nobody will ever know you got there. So let's talk about the layers panel. The layers panel is really what's going to cause you the most problems initially. It is layers. Picture layers, like papers stacked on top of each other, except these papers are all see-through. Whichever one on top is the one you're seeing most of. And then working your way down, right? So I'm going to do a couple things today to play with the layers just to show you. The first thing I'm going to show you is this little lock here. You see the little lock? The lock means you can't do anything to that layer, which is problematic if you want to do some editing. It's useful if you don't want to destroy your back. I'm going to leave the lock on, but I'm going to go to the skinny snowman to the left here. Everyone see the skinny snowman? I'm going to click it, and it's going to open me a panel. Now that panel contains a bunch of things. What we're going to do is first we're going to change it from background to original. And before I've named this things like do not touch, or don't delete, or leave alone, because it is our original picture, and anything we do, we're actually going to do to copies. Does that make sense? So that way, if our copy sucks, we've always got the original to go back to. So I'm going to change the original. Transparency, we'll come back and play with that in a moment. It shows that it's locked, and I can unlock it here. It shows that it's visible or it's hidden. Yes, ma'am?
I pressed backspace 2 times and it did that.
Control Z. You killed your layer. So let's go back. We'll go File, Open Image. Take it to a lobby, we'll reopen. Okay, so we've named it original. What she did was she deleted it, and that's harsh. We're going to leave it visible right now. You can actually, we're going to make it invisible in another technique. We're going to come back to this, but right now we're going to go all the way to the bottom where it says duplicate. Everyone sees the one where it says duplicate? Avoid the trash can. We're going to duplicate. Good so far? Now, on that original one, I'm going to make it hidden. All it does is uncheck that little box there. You see that? And on the first one, the top one says original copy, right? If we duplicated this, it would say original copy copy. Because it just has the word copy. Let's rename that. You can pretty much, I'm just going to call it landscape. You can kind of name it almost anything you want. And that's all I'm going to do, and I can close this thing here. Now, you'll notice this one's blue and this one's not, right? The blue one is the one you're working on. The reason we left this locked is if we accidentally click this, we don't want to do changes to it. That is going to happen to all of you. You're going to be working in one layer, you think, and you're going to make crazy changes and nothing's going to show up on the screen. And after about 5 minutes, you're going to get angry, you're going to yell, nothing has happened. Well, it was happening, it just was happening on the layer you had selected. So this one's invisible right now and it's locked, we can't change it. This one here is visible, but we can change it, there's no lock on it. Okay? So, I'm going to take you real fast through menus. I'm not even going to show you the tools, I'm going to let you play with them. But let's start up here at the top at File. So File is a good one, and I used it with you, Season. You saw that, right? So from File, you can open new images. You can also save your image. So we're going to save right now. We're going to hit Save. Everyone hit Save? And the reason save is important. If you save it as a JPEG or a PNG, a PNG file or a JPG file, you can, all your changes, everything you went over here that we're about to do will not show up. But if you save it as a PXD file, when you open it, it'll have all the layers and everything still attached. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure it's called a PXD file. And I can leave it as Landscape Jordan because now it's .pxd. You see that? And we can just push download. Very nice of you. Thanks. You guys, it won't say exactly that, but it'll be something similar. You go to where I put all that. Okay, thanks. I don't want to do that. Thanks. Add choice. Add by Google. Oh my gosh. I'm stuck. Why am I stuck in that ad? That is obnoxious. Oh, that's why I closed. I hate ad pop-ups. But that's how they make their money, right? Okay, so the reason I did that is I now have a PXD file. You've got to do that occasionally. A lot of you are going to take your computer when the bell rings, you're going to slam your computer shut. Any work you've done is not saved. And it's gone. So you're going to sit here an entire class period, slam your thing shut and say, oh no. You'll probably say something else in your brain. But that's censored. So, let's go back to the file menu. There's a couple other ones. Obviously, you can open images. If you want to see a file with all your layers, you've got to open a PXD file. Does that make sense? Right now, we're going to do, and we're not going to do anything else in here, but I'm going to tell you about them. There's one here, it's called Stock Search. Stock Search will get you images that are free to use. So if you just want to make a picture with a birthday cake in it, you can go stock image, birthday cake, then cut that little sucker up and make it look like you were at your birthday party. Okay? Edit. Edit is important. Probably the most important part of it is this one right here that says free transform. But the new version of PIXLR automatically does that if you click on the picture. Free distort is fun to play with. I'll just let you know up front. Preferences, don't play with them. Because it messes up your PIXLR. Now we're going to go over to image. Am I going too fast? I told you I'm going to let you play and learn. So image size is the size of the picture. Canvas size is the size of the whole picture. So the image can be stuck inside the picture and be smaller. Image rotation, that makes pretty much sense, right? Go to layer. The one here I'm going to talk about, be careful once you get down here. If you flatten your image, what it's going to take every layer you have, and it's going to squish them all together and make them one layer. So if you had a layer you were working on that had some stuff on and you want to edit it later, you've just flattened it and it's all just one layer. The one that's really cool though is add image as layer. Right now you're going to pick add image as layer, and you're going to get that one that was the bokeh picture. So the bokeh penguin picture, and you're going to add that picture in. It's not inside the initial photos, it's in the 20, like that right there. There's the bokeh. It's not in the initial, did you add it? Layer.
Oh, that's cool. Jordan, that'd be so cool.
Add images layer.
Gosh, Jordan, you're just like so popular.
I don't like
And
this.
then, oh
Really?
my gosh, where are
I don't like being.
Go to my drive, or Google Drive, that's fine.
I'm just kidding.
Go to my
The
drive,
worst thing ever.
share it with me.
See, it'd be cute like right there.
Like me.
We're gonna go
Or you do like
to the 2020 fall photos one,
right. And rotate it.
and then the bokeh.
And then you put it up in the corner up here.
Did you get it?
I'm such a cool person. I can figure
You
this
get it?
stuff out. And then, but then I messed with the picture.
Remember what I told you about PNG files? How you could, the background is not there?
Oh, look at that.
I don't know. Blow it off. Which is funny out of ask. See, open the bokeh.
Look
We
at
tried to
that.
download the bokeh.
Why does this look so yellow?
Now, the great thing about a PNG file is you can see through it. But what I'm going to show you here in a moment means that you can see through any file.
Why doesn't mine look as cool as yours?
Because yours on that is just different. It's how it came in. Now, I can move this anywhere I want. I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit. I can move this anywhere I want. I'm just going to put it up here in the corner. I can also use this free transform and make it any size I want.
Yours is so much cooler.
Yeah, his looks a lot better.
Yeah, ours is like gray.
Ours is like trash.
No.
It's like
So I put it up there in the corner. You don't have to.
Oh my goodness.
It's like Android.
Now, here's the great thing. Right now it's kind of bright and it's over bright for the picture, isn't it?
No.
I want mine bright.
If you go over here to the skinny snowman, make sure you're on the bokeh layer.
Oh,
If you go to the skinny snowman, you click it, there's a button that says transparency.
I already did that.
And if you make it a little more transparent, you can lose some of the overly bright in there.
I want mine to be bright.
You find it?
If I turn it off, it's just.
It won't go any brighter.
I like
Yeah,
it.
if you go all...
I don't like it so bright.
So, yeah, change the brightness.
I would have put like a filter on it.
Well, we're getting there. I'm going to let you go with that on your own because they're fun to play with. But you can do this with any layer. You can stick a layer in front of a layer, and I'm going to do that in a moment. You can stick a layer in front of a layer and then make one transparent on it. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that in a moment. Okay? So that is pretty much how, and you can change that to whatever you want. When I click off it, you'll see I kind of made it look like the sun is up there hanging out in those trees, didn't I?
Yeah, with multiple little suns around it.
Well, that's what happens in a lens. So that is probably the most useful one is layer, add images layer. I can stick a bunch of layers in here one on top of the other. Does that make sense? In fact, I'm going to do that in a moment. I'm going to go back to my, down here, my original, and I'm going to duplicate it again. So I'm going to duplicate it. What have I got going on down here?
That's some for
It's
no
an ad. How do we get rid of it? There it
It's
is.
an ad to get no ads.
So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to duplicate it again.
That's what it is.
Where's the original?
You got to scroll down for it. It's stuck down there. Now we've got a bunch of layers. And you can actually get rid of, like, I'm going to move the history all the way down if I can find it.
So wait,
I'm going to move the history down. I'm going to click it off. And that'll make the layers come down. So we got another one called original copy. Did everyone make a copy?
No, I didn't.
Okay, go all the way to the bottom, find your original. Same thing we did before, duplicate it. And I'm gonna call this one creepy. You'll see why in a moment.
wait.
I'm gonna call it creepy.
How do you do?
Which question?
I didn't make an original copy.
Okay, you've got an original. Go down to the original.
That's so
Go to the skinny snowman. Now you got original copy. Everyone make an original copy, change it to creepy or something like that.
Sure.
I just need
Okay,
Stalker.
now I'm gonna take that layer and I'm gonna move it above the landscape layer. So I can grab these and move them. So right now I want bokeh, creepy, landscape. That's the order of my layers. Bokeh, creepy, landscape.
I have a new layer too. I don't know where that came from.
Everyone got them?
Hold on.
Okay.
Didn't I rename it creepy?
Name it creepy or eerie or something. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to it. It's kind of creepy.
Copy to its surface.
You should like add like nice.
Have a clown.
So everyone there? So I'm going to click on the creepy one and I'm going to turn it on, which isn't going to change anything because it's exactly the same as the landscape below it, isn't it?
Yeah, if I take off those,
Okay, so make sure creepy is selected. Make sure the order is bokeh, creepy, landscape. Make sure they're all visible. Good?
Good.
Now, there's a couple other menus up here. There's adjustment, which includes some really neat stuff you can do to your pictures. And there's filters, which includes some neat stuff. We're actually going to go filter, and we're going to go fringe. Filter, fringe.
I should know.
Go filter, fringe.
What amount do we want?
Now, this is one of those where you're going to have to control your urge to go far over. But I'm going to change my fringe
Oh, that hurts.
to make it a little more creepier.
Oh, is that what they use?
Why does it do this?
Mine's not working.
Remember, it goes, you have to go slow.
I'm going like fast.
Dude, this like really hurts my eyes, guys. I don't like
It's like
this.
whenever
Grab that button and move it right.
Oh yeah, that's it. Negative
Okay,
2
but
is where it's
you
at.
don't have this, you're on the original.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Dude,
Make
that
sure you're on the
really
creepy
hurts.
layer. Now
It
just
was a
go
little
fringe.
fun. I
Make
just
sure
did
you're on the
two.
creepy layer.
I just did two.
Oh, mine
That's trippy.
My little
So-
brother is the same.
Get it a little trippy. Don't worry, it's not going to stay trippy. We're going to do something else with it.
You did this too.
Okay?
Oh, I get it. With it.
I'll
Make
do,
sure you're
I'll do
on-
like a 5.
Huh?
Six really hurts my eyes.
Okay, just stick on the, I don't know what layer you did it on, but only do it on that layer.
I haven't been able to actually look at this for a while.
What about this, Mr. Wheeler?
Do you want the layer on top?
Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Wheeler. I feel like
Okay, so you made it a little creepy, right? Hit the apply button.
Oh, this hurts my eyes.
Don't worry, we're going to make it better in a moment. I'm going to tell you, to do good photos, you're going to have to be a little exaggerative sometimes, and I'll show you why. So my creepy layer, which is my second layer down, looks a little creepy.
Very.
Nah, what's like
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the transparency on my creepy layer so that I can see a lot of the original layer through there, which makes it far less creepy.
do we have to turn down the transparency?
Does that make sense?
Do we have to turn down the transparency?
Yes.
That's how they.
We do?
That's how they do that. And there's a couple in here we're going to see. You're going to play with things like vignette. Vignette is how they make a bride's photo with the bride being in focus and everything else kind of out of focus. But remember, you can stack layers over here and do little things to each layer. Photoshop, PIXLR, it's all about layers. If you're working on your original layer, you're missing the concept. The only time we'll ever work on the original layer is for things like fixing zits, fixing stars, healing stuff. We will seldom ever modify the
So we
original
can take a
layer.
picture of stands there, like he just stands there.
And just like,
Cast off.
Yeah,
can we do a
That
finger?
is cool.
we could remove Stanton's cast.
So
If you go look at the last yearbooks, and you know anything about the high school students, you'll notice that there's not a lot of zits present. There's no tattoos visible. Because every year I go and edit them out. Because 10 years from now, you don't want to remember the day you had like 12 zits and the horn of Megas on your forehead. So I clean those out.
What is trading?
But that's so, when you look back 10 years, you just want to remember good times, not
Puberty.
puberty, exactly. All right, so now, Control S.
show my ruler.
Now we're going to save it. Remember we're saving this PIXLR file. I'm going to download it, which saves it over. It's going to say blah, 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 blah. It's going to tell me you already have a file called that, and I don't care. I'm going to save it over. Everyone got that? You want to save the PIXLR file first.
Yeah, PXD.
The reason being is PIXLR file keeps all these layers we've done. Which means if Grandma says, I don't like that picture, you left that mole right there and I didn't want the mole. All right, Grandma, I'll fix it. You can go back, open the layers, get rid of Grandma's mole. Or maybe Grandma's really weird and Grandma says, I want the mole on my nose. Okay, Grandma, I'll go put a mole in your nose. Now, everyone saved the PIXLR file? Let's save it. We're going to do it, save again. So Control S or file save. But this time we're going to pick JPEG. We're going to give it a new name. I'm going to call mine the Zombie Forest. Now, I have some choices here. JPEG is a great quality picture with the background. Ping. The only time you really want to ping is where you don't want background done. So if you've done a picture and it's just Rathan in all his glory standing there as football statue, but no background, you would save it as a ping. Web, if you're doing web pages, obviously. And PIXLR, you want to keep the file. So I'm going to do a JPEG. I'm going to keep it as high quality because I want to be able to print it and show it at home. And I'm going to hit download on that one.
Oh yeah, Jordan, I'm so proud of you.
Do not save in the fall pictures folder.
Oh, I don't know what I said today.
I saved my
And that's that. Any questions so far?
No, I think.
Good. There are a ton of adjustments and a ton of filters you can do. So go in there and pick another picture. It can be yours. It can be anybody else's.
Oh, I wanna.
And try things out. By Tuesday, you'll have to turn a picture in. And I want two things. I want the JPEG picture and I want the PIXLR file. So I want a PXD file and a PNG file, or a JPEG. But remember, use your powers for good, not evil. If you modify a human in a negative way, I will consider that bullying
Oh.
and will take the consequences. Does that make sense?
Wait, how do you make a new one?
All you gotta do is file close,
What about my portrait?
Is that the hand? Oh.
file close, and then open a new image, whatever you want it to be. You can see what I've been playing with.
Did you make that robot thing?
It's a bunch of other people's stuff. I just collapsed it together.
Can I see it?
There's great things you can do for education as long as I'm not changing the value. Some of these you'll recognize as the backdrops for your classrooms.
I have that in. How do I unpin it?
Close.
How do I unpin it?
And now open it. It's going to go slow. Remember, you guys, when you're playing with pictures, the file speed is going to be slow because there's a ton of data moving left and right.
How do I
Yeah, I have
unpin
no
a
idea
picture?
Let's see. Go to gradient. Let's do a gradient.
How do I unpin a picture?
Yeah.